Hey everyone! If you enjoy these story videos, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support means the world and keeps us creating more amazing stories every week. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Elena lived in a world woven from whispers and warmth, a symphony of sensations that painted her reality without the tyranny of sight. Born into profound blindness, her existence was a tapestry of textures, the cool silk of a morning breeze, the rough embrace of a woolen blanket, the smooth, aged surface of a well-loved book. Scents were her landscapes, the earthy tang of rain-soaked soil, the sweet, cloying perfume of honeysuckle on a summer evening, the sharp, invigorating aroma of coffee brewing. Sounds were her navigators, the distant murmur of city traffic, the rhythmic patter of raindrops on her windowpane, the comforting cadence of her best friend Myra's laughter. She didn't see the world in hues and shadows, but she felt it with a profound intensity that many sighted people never truly experienced. Despite this rich inner world, a persistent curiosity gnawed at her. She often wondered about the elusive light that others spoke of with such reverence, such longing. It wasn't a desire to see beauty in the conventional sense. Her imagination conjured its own breathtaking vistas. Rather, she yearned to understand why sight was so universally coveted. What magic did it hold that transcended the vibrant tapestry of her own senses? Was it simply a practical tool, or did it unlock a deeper dimension of existence she couldn't fathom? This unanswered question hummed beneath the surface of her placid life, a quiet, persistent melody. Across town, in a cavernous loft studio bathed in the cold, unforgiving glow of skylights, Adrian wrestled with a different kind of darkness. He was a painter, celebrated in art circles for his audacious use of color and his uncanny ability to capture the fleeting essence of human emotion on canvas. His eyes, keen and discerning, were his most prized possessions, capable of dissecting light, shadow, and form with surgical precision. Yet, despite this visual acuity, a deep-seated creative drought had gripped him for the past year. His canvases, once vibrant declarations of life, now stared back at him, soulless and monochromatic. Each stroke felt forced, each concept hollow. The vibrant spark that once ignited his art had flickered and died, leaving behind only the cold ashes of a profound personal tragedy, a loss that had stolen not just a loved one, but the very light from his own heart. He could see the world, yes, but he no longer felt its beauty. It was merely an arrangement of shapes and shades, devoid of meaning. One rain-lashed evening, a peculiar twist of fate brought these two disparate souls to the same art gallery opening. Elena, guided by Myra's gentle arm, navigated the hushed elegance of the space, her senses attuned to the murmurs of conversation, the rustle of expensive fabrics, the faint scent of oils and canvas. She moved with an innate grace, a testament to her mastery of her unique world. Adrian, meanwhile, stalked through the gallery like a ghost, his sharp eyes skimming over the works with detached indifference, searching for a spark that stubbornly refused to ignite. He was there out of obligation, a hollow shell performing the rituals of a life he no longer recognized. Their paths converged before a striking, enigmatic piece titled The Forgotten Light. Elena, drawn by an inexplicable pull, reached out, her fingers tentatively tracing the smooth, cool surface of the canvas. To her, it felt like a labyrinth of raised textures, a silent language she instinctively tried to decipher. At the very same moment, Adrian, weary of his internal void, found his gaze snagging on the painting. He saw a landscape of muted grays and deep blues, a desolate scene that mirrored the barrenness of his own soul. With a sigh of resignation, he extended a hand, his fingertips brushing against the same canvas, mere inches from Elena's. It was then, in that precise, fragile instant, that the world outside seemed to hold its breath. A sudden, blinding flash of lightning split the oppressive, rain-heavy sky, followed by a thunderclap that vibrated through the very foundations of the building. The gallery lights flickered wildly, then died, plunging the room into a momentary, disorienting darkness. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. When the emergency lights sputtered back to life, Adrian and Elena were no longer touching the canvas. They stood a foot apart, their eyes wide, their bodies trembling. A strange, almost electric hum seemed to cling to the air around them. The brief blackout had passed, the moment seemingly insignificant to the other gallery-goers. But for Elena and Adrian, something fundamental had shifted. A subtle, imperceptible thread had woven itself between their very essences. The next morning, the world was irrevocably altered. Elena awoke not to the familiar, comforting darkness of her own room, but to an overwhelming assault of light. Her eyes, or rather, the eyes of the body she now inhabited, fluttered open to reveal a vast, opulent apartment filled with an array of vibrant colors she had only ever dreamed of. Canvases in various stages of completion adorned the walls, bathed in the brilliant, unfiltered light streaming through expansive windows. She lay disoriented, her heart hammering against her ribs. What was this place? Then she saw them, her hands trembling slightly before her. They were long, slender, distinctly masculine, and most astonishingly, she could see them. She could see the intricate lines on her palms, the faint freckles on the back of her skin, the way the light caught the delicate hairs. A gasp tore from her throat, a sound unfamiliar, deeper than her own. Scrambling out of the unfamiliar bed, she stumbled towards a tall, ornate mirror. What stared back was not her own familiar face, but that of a stranger. A man with a strong jawline, a sensitive mouth, and eyes that were heavy with a profound, almost desolate sadness. Yet, through these foreign eyes, the world poured in. The vivid emerald of a potted plant in the corner, the rich mahogany of a grand piano, the delicate play of dust motes dancing in a shaft of sunlight. The sheer, unadulterated beauty of it all was an unbearable shock. Tears, warm and unfamiliar, welled up and streamed down her face. This is the world, she whispered, her voice husky and unfamiliar. It's so beautiful, and so much, it hurts. She spent hours simply looking. She traced the architectural lines of the apartment, the subtle variations in the color of the wooden floor, the intricate patterns on the Persian rug. She ran her new, longer fingers over everything within reach, the smooth, cool ceramic of a coffee cup, the bristly head of a paintbrush, the warmth of the sun-drenched floorboards beneath her bare feet. Every object, every ray of light, every shadow was a revelation, a sensory explosion that overwhelmed and captivated her. It was all so new, so dazzling, so utterly full of emotion. The world, as seen through Adrian's eyes, was a symphony of color and form, a masterpiece she had only ever imagined. And yet, beneath the breathtaking beauty, she sensed a subtle current of melancholy, a quiet ache that resonated within the new vessel she now inhabited. Meanwhile, Adrian woke up in a world of absolute, terrifying darkness. Panic seized him instantly. His first coherent thought was that he had gone blind, a painter's worst nightmare. He thrashed in the bed, disoriented, desperate to open his eyes and dispel the blackness. But no matter how hard he tried, no light penetrated. The scent of lavender and old paper filled the air, foreign and oddly comforting, yet overshadowed by his mounting terror. The shrill ringing of a phone startled him. He fumbled blindly, knocking objects over before finally locating the device. A cheerful voice, distinctly feminine, chirped on the other end. "Elena? Hey, sleepyhead. You coming to our book club today? We're discussing The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue." Mira, Elena's best friend. A cold dread settled in Adrian's stomach. Elena? He was Elena? He tried to speak, but the voice that emerged was lighter, higher-pitched, distinctly feminine. He swallowed hard, forcing himself to calm down, to feign normalcy. "Oh, hi Mira," he managed, his voice trembling slightly. "Yeah, I'm just a little tired today. Maybe I'll skip book club." Myra's voice, though concerned, was unsuspecting. "Are you okay? You sound a little off. Everything all right?" "Fine, just a bit of a head cold," Adrian lied, already feeling the profound isolation of his new predicament. He ended the call, the receiver feeling impossibly light in his new, smaller hand. Only a few hours later, after a series of clumsy encounters with objects he couldn't see, and a horrifying realization that his usually keen painter's instincts for spatial awareness were utterly useless, did the full, crushing weight of his situation descend upon him. He was truly blind. He was living in the body of a woman who had never seen, and his own, once vibrant eyes, were now useless. He crumpled to the floor of what he now understood was Elena's small, cozy apartment, the silence of the room amplifying the deafening roar of his own despair. The world, which he had once viewed with such cynical detachment, had now been completely snatched away, leaving him adrift in an endless, unfathomable night. Elena, now inhabiting Adrian's imposing frame, found herself grappling with an entirely new lexicon of existence. The world, once a symphony of the unseen, was now a dazzling, cacophonous opera of light and shadow. Everything demanded a relearning. Simple tasks became monumental challenges. The act of eating, once a familiar ritual of taste and texture, was now a clumsy ballet of silverware. She fumbled with the knife, unsure of the precise angle, the exact pressure needed to cut her food. The sheer visual information, the way the light glinted off the metal, the vibrant colors of the food on the plate, was a constant, overwhelming sensory input. Walking, which in her own body had been a graceful, intuitive movement, now felt like navigating a minefield. Her long legs seemed unwieldy, her stride too powerful for the delicate balance she was accustomed to. She bumped into door frames, misjudged distances, her new body a foreign vessel she was still learning to steer. The most jarring, yet exhilarating, transformation was the expectation of interaction. As Adrian, she was a man, and the world perceived her as such. The confident nods from strangers, the way shopkeepers addressed her, the unspoken assumptions based on her appearance, it was a constant, subtle pressure. She felt a profound awkwardness in social settings, her innate gentle nature struggling against the perceived masculinity of her new form. Conversations, once flowing effortlessly through sound and intuition, now felt like performances, requiring her to maintain eye contact, to interpret facial expressions, to project an authority she didn't yet possess. Yet, amidst this whirlwind of adaptation, one place offered solace, a sacred space where her spirit truly blossomed, Adrian's studio. Bathed in the very light that had initially overwhelmed her, the studio became her sanctuary, a place where the visual world began to make sense, not through logic, but through emotion. She found herself drawn to the easel, to the array of brushes and tubes of paint, each color a new song, a new story waiting to be told. With a hesitant, almost reverent touch, she picked up a paintbrush for the first time in her life. She had no formal training, no technical knowledge of composition or perspective. Her hand felt clumsy, the brush a strange extension of her fingers. But her heart, once guided by sound and touch, now sought to translate her inner world into this vibrant new language of color. She closed her eyes for a moment, recalling the sensations she had known, then opened them, letting her new sight guide her. Her initial strokes were tentative, uncertain. But as she painted, something profound began to happen. She didn't paint what she saw in the conventional sense. She painted what she felt. The distant, joyful chirping of birds outside the window transformed into streaks of vibrant yellow and cerulean blue. The earthy, clean scent of rain on the pavement outside inspired swathes of deep greens and grays, textured and alive. She recalled Myra's warm laughter, the subtle inflection in her voice, and it manifested as soft, luminous pastels, swirling together in a gentle embrace. She remembered the fleeting warmth of a stranger's smile as they passed her on the street, and it found its way onto the canvas as a splash of unexpected, hopeful orange. Her paintings, though technically unrefined, were bursting with a raw, undeniable vitality. They hummed with an almost childlike wonder, a pure, unadulterated joy in the act of creation. The colors weren't just colors, they were emotions, memories, sensations given visual form. They were vibrant, almost incandescent, breathing with a life that Adrian's own recent work sorely lacked. It was as if Elena, through Adrian's eyes, was painting the very soul of the world, a soul that Adrian himself had long since forgotten how to perceive. Her art was a testament to the profound beauty she was experiencing for the very first time, unfiltered by cynicism or jaded experience. Each canvas became a window into her newly enlightened spirit, a testament to the fact that true vision transcended mere sight. Meanwhile, Adrian, trapped within Elena's body, wrestled with a different kind of rebirth. The world was now a limitless expanse of velvety darkness, a silence punctuated by sounds he had never truly heard before. His once vibrant vision, the very core of his identity, had been cruelly stripped away. The initial terror had given way to a profound sense of helplessness, a suffocating claustrophobia. He missed the sharp lines of a cityscape, the subtle play of light on a model's face, the rich, earthy tones of his oil paints. He missed seeing. Yet, the longer he remained in Elena's body, the more his other senses began to awaken, sharpening with an almost supernatural clarity. He became acutely aware of the rhythmic thrum of his own heartbeat, a steady drum against his ribs, a constant reminder of life. The subtle sigh of the wind through an open window transformed into a complex melody, each gust carrying a unique story. The rustle of falling leaves, once an unremarkable background noise, now sounded like delicate whispers, a conversation between nature and time. He learned to distinguish the hurried footsteps of a businessman from the leisurely stroll of a student, the cheerful chatter of children from the hushed tones of lovers. His ears became his eyes, painting an auditory landscape that was unexpectedly rich and nuanced. His lifeline in this new, bewildering existence was Mira. Elena's best friend, unaware of the profound swap, continued to be a beacon of warmth and guidance. One afternoon, Mira, sensing Elena's, Adrian's, unusual quietness, decided to take her out. "Come on, Elena," she chirped, her voice a comforting anchor in the darkness. "Let's get some fresh air. The park's beautiful today." Adrian, still struggling to maintain the charade, reluctantly agreed. As Mira gently guided him through the bustling city streets, then into the verdant expanse of the park, a new world began to unfold. He felt the warm caress of the sun on his skin, a gentle, pervasive warmth that permeated every cell. He felt the soft, rhythmic brushing of the wind through his, Elena's, hair, a sensation of freedom and lightness he hadn't experienced in years. The scent of damp earth, blooming flowers, and freshly cut grass filled his nostrils, intoxicating and vivid. Mira described the surroundings, her words painting vibrant images. "The cherry blossoms are just starting to bloom, Elena," a riot of pink and white against the blue sky. Adrian, though he couldn't see them, could feel their presence in the sweet, delicate perfume carried on the breeze. He heard the delighted squeals of children chasing pigeons, the distant strains of a street musician's saxophone, the gentle gurgle of a nearby fountain. And then, as he sat on a park bench, the warmth of the sun on his face, the wind whispering secrets in his ears, Adrian had a profound, shattering epiphany. It wasn't just a revelation. It was a visceral, emotional awakening. He remembered the cynicism that had clouded his vision for so long, the way he had dismissed the simple joys of life as insignificant, focusing only on grand, often tragic narratives for his art. He realized that for years, even with his perfect sight, he had been blind. So, he whispered, his voice catching in his throat, "The world hasn't disappeared. I just never truly listened to it." The beauty he had once sought to capture with his eyes, he was now experiencing with every fiber of his being. The world was not empty in the darkness, it was simply waiting to be perceived through a different lens, a lens of pure sensation. The vibrant tapestry of Elena's sensory world was now his own, and in its intricate threads, he found a richness, a depth, a profound connection to life that his sight-reliant existence had somehow overlooked. He began to understand that true vision was not merely about the optics of the eye, but about the openness of the heart, the willingness to embrace every facet of existence, seen or unseen. The world, in its blindness, was teaching him how to truly see again. The initial shock and disorientation of their swapped existences eventually began to give way to a deeper, more profound awareness. Elena, now in Adrian's body, continued to marvel at the visual world, her artistic journey blooming with an almost spiritual fervor. Adrian, still navigating the absolute darkness of Elena's form, found his other senses sharpening to an almost supernatural degree, painting him a world richer in texture and sound than he had ever conceived. But amidst these personal transformations, an undeniable, nagging question persisted in both their minds. What about the other? The person who now inhabited their life, their body? It was a strange, almost surreal synchronicity that led them to reconnect. Elena, experimenting with Adrian's laptop in a rare moment away from the easel, stumbled upon his email account. Curious, she opened it, navigating the unfamiliar interface with surprising dexterity. Amongst the myriad of professional correspondences and gallery invitations, she found a draft email, half-written, addressed to an unknown recipient, titled Urgent and Unbelievable. The content was sparse, frantic, detailing a bizarre experience of waking up blind in a strange apartment, mentioning a book club and a friend named Mira. A shiver ran down her spine. The details were too specific, too eerily aligned with her own experience, albeit from the opposite perspective. At the very same moment, Adrian, growing more adept at navigating Elena's apartment using his other senses, had asked Mira to help him set up a screen reader for his laptop, ostensibly for exploring new audiobooks. While testing the software, a notification popped up from an unfamiliar email address, Adrian's own. He listened as the screen reader voice announced the sender and subject, Adrian Dubois, regarding the Forgotten Light. His heart leaped. He instructed the software to open it. The email, short and to the point, spoke of waking up in a man's body, seeing for the first time, and a strange connection to a painting. Both Elena and Adrian, separated by their swapped bodies and yet so intrinsically linked, felt an electric jolt of recognition. They weren't alone. Someone else knew their secret. And that someone else was them. Hesitantly, Elena, as Adrian, replied to the draft email, simply writing, "It's me. I understand." Adrian, as Elena, received the message and, with trembling fingers, guided by the screen reader, typed back, "We need to talk. Where can we meet where no one will see us?" They settled on a secluded, late-night cafe known for its quiet corners and discreet atmosphere, a place Adrian, the true Adrian, frequented for solitary contemplation. The instructions were simple. Adrian, in Elena's body, would arrive first, find a table in the darkest corner, and wait. Elena, in Adrian's body, would follow, identifying her other self by the subtle clues only they would know. The meeting was, as expected, bizarre, surreal, and profoundly emotional. Adrian, dressed in Elena's unassuming clothes, felt a wave of trepidation as he entered the cafe, relying on the subtle shifts in air currents and the distant hum of conversation to guide him. He chose a small, round table tucked away in a dimly lit alcove, his heightened hearing picking up the soft clinking of cutlery and the gentle murmur of voices. He sat, his heart a frantic drumbeat in his chest, his hands clasped tightly in his lap, a knot of anticipation and fear tightening in his stomach. Then, he heard the distinctive, slightly heavier footsteps approaching. A new scent, faint but familiar, the subtle hint of turpentine and something uniquely masculine, wafted towards him. He knew before the voice spoke. "Adrian?" Elena whispered, her voice, now Adrian's deep baritone, filled with a fragile wonder. She stood before him, looking down at his own familiar face, a face she had only ever touched or imagined, now seeing it with her new eyes. The sight of herself, looking so vulnerable, so lost in the darkness, sent a strange pang through her. Adrian, as Elena, reached out a tentative hand, feeling for her, his arm. "Elena," he responded, his voice, now her soft cadence, thick with emotion. He found her arm, feeling the unfamiliar strength beneath the fabric. They sat in silence for a long moment, simply absorbing the impossible reality before them. A blind woman was now seeing the world through a renowned painter's eyes, and that same painter was experiencing life through the profound, sightless world of the woman he now inhabited. It was a cosmic joke, a divine intervention, or perhaps simply a miracle. It's overwhelming, Elena began, her gaze fixed on the flickering candle on their table, mesmerized by the dance of the flame. Everything. The colors. The faces. The light. It's so much more than I ever imagined. And your eyes. They hold so much sadness. She reached out, her fingers delicately tracing the contours of her face, a gesture she had always used to see. I can feel it, even now. The weariness. Adrian, as Elena, leaned into the touch, a shiver running through him. It was his own face, his own sorrow, now being perceived by the woman who carried it. And you, he replied, his voice soft, you live in such quiet beauty. I can hear the silence, Elena. The way the world hums when there's no visual distraction. The sounds I never noticed. The rhythm of a heartbeat, the soft sigh of the wind. It's like a different kind of vision entirely. He paused, a profound realization dawning on him. I thought I was seeing the world before. I was wrong. I was only looking. They talked for hours, sharing their experiences, their fears, their nascent discoveries. Elena described the exhilarating, almost painful joy of seeing colors, the way a sunset could bring tears to her eyes, the intricate details of a spiderweb glistening with dew. She spoke of the mundane beauty she now perceived, the subtle shift in a person's expression, the way light fell on a stack of books, the endless variations of green in a single leaf. The world is so loud with light, she explained, a wistful smile playing on Adrian's lips. And so beautiful. But also, sometimes, it's just noise. So much information. I understand now why people crave it, but also why it can be exhausting. Adrian, in turn, told her about the profound stillness of darkness, the way it forced him to listen, to truly feel. He described the symphony of sounds that had replaced his visual world, the texture of her favorite blanket against his skin, the delicate scent of her chamomile tea, the distinct emotional weight carried in Myra's voice. In the dark, he mused, the world doesn't disappear. It simply shrinks, drawing you inward. You have to pay attention to everything else. And when you do, it speaks to you in ways I never imagined. Every sound has a spirit, Elena. Every touch tells a story. He spoke of learning to navigate her apartment not by sight, but by memory, by the subtle echoes and vibrations, by the unique scent profile of each room. As the cafe slowly emptied and the first hint of dawn began to paint the sky outside, a strange, profound connection solidified between them. They were two halves of a whole, each holding a piece of the other's missing perception. Elena, the formerly blind girl, was now teaching a sighted artist about the visceral, emotional impact of light and color, challenging his jaded perceptions. Adrian, the artist who had lost his inner vision, was, in turn, guiding Elena towards a deeper understanding of the unseen world, showing her that true beauty transcended mere appearances. We have to help each other, Elena said, her voice firm with newfound purpose. You know how to see, truly see, even without your eyes. And I'm just learning. But I have your eyes now. And I want to learn everything. Adrian nodded, a flicker of hope, an emotion he hadn't felt in years, stirring within him. And I want to understand what it means to truly feel the world, Elena. To find the light, even in the darkest places. From that night forward, their secret meetings became their classroom, a liminal space where two worlds converged. They were each other's guide and student, teacher and pupil. And in this improbable exchange, a silent promise was made. They would teach each other how to see the world anew, each offering the other the missing piece of their own fragmented perception. The blind girl would illuminate the sighted world, and the sighted artist would reveal the hidden depths of the dark. Their secret rendezvous, initially born out of necessity and shock, quickly evolved into a profound and transformative partnership. Elena, in Adrian's body, and Adrian, in Elena's, dedicated themselves to a singular, overarching purpose: to help each other navigate their new realities and, in doing so, to bridge the chasm between their two vastly different perceptions of the world. Their classroom shifted from the quiet cafe to Adrian's spacious, light-filled studio, a place that now buzzed with an unprecedented energy, a blend of awe and quiet determination. One afternoon, amidst a collection of Adrian's unfinished works, Elena, as Adrian, paused before a large, haunting canvas draped loosely with a sheet. A title was scrawled faintly on the back, "The Forgotten Light." It was the very painting they had both touched on that fateful, storm-swept night. Peeking beneath the sheet, she saw Adrian's familiar, melancholic style, muted tones depicting a desolate landscape, a single, extinguished lamp in the foreground. It was beautiful, technically flawless, yet radiating an profound emptiness. "This is it, isn't it?" Elena asked, her voice hushed, eyes tracing the contours of the unfulfilled vision. "The painting that brought us together." Adrian, as Elena, sitting on a stool nearby, had heard her footsteps, sensed her stillness. "Yes," he replied, his voice a soft murmur. "I started it after I lost someone. It was meant to be about the light that leaves us, the void it leaves behind. But I could never finish it. It just felt hollow. Like me." A spark ignited in Elena's new-sighted eyes. "Then we'll finish it," she declared, her voice resonating with Adrian's deep timbre, but filled with her own unshakable conviction. "We'll finish The Forgotten Light. But we won't paint the void. We'll paint the light that returns, the light that finds its way back, even in the darkest places." Adrian was silent for a moment, a whirlwind of emotions swirling within him. His unfinished masterpiece, a symbol of his despair, now proposed as a canvas for hope by the woman who had never seen light, yet now possessed his eyes. "How?" he finally asked, his voice laced with a tremor of uncertainty. "I can't see the colors. And you've never held a professional brush." "You will be my eyes of technique," Elena replied, turning to face him, her eyes shining with fierce resolve. "You know the rules of perspective, of composition, of mixing colors. You know how to make a brush sing. I will be your heart of sensation. I will tell you what the light feels like, what the colors sound like, what the emotions smell like. Together, we'll paint something new." And so began their extraordinary collaboration. The studio, once a solitary realm of Adrian's genius, became a vibrant laboratory of shared perception. Elena, guided by Adrian's meticulous instructions, learned the nuances of holding a brush, the precise pressure needed for a delicate stroke, the expansive sweep for a bolder declaration. Adrian, with his keen memory of visual principles, would describe the exact ratio of cerulean to ultramarine for a twilight sky, the layering techniques for creating depth, the interplay of warm and cool tones. "Imagine the horizon line here," he would say, his hand moving in the air as if sketching the invisible, just a third of the way up. And for the highlights, a touch of titanium white, almost translucent, like a whispered promise. But Elena would infuse these technical directives with her unique, sensory understanding. "No, Adrian," she might respond, holding a tube of cadmium yellow. "This isn't just yellow. This is the sound of birdsong at dawn, warm and bright. We need a bit more of the orange, like the first stirrings of courage." And for the shadows, she'd pick up a tube of Payne's Gray. It's not just dark. It's the scent of damp earth after a long rain, cool and reflective, holding secrets. Adrian, blind but listening intently, would close his eyes, Elena's eyes, letting her descriptions wash over him. He'd picture the colors she spoke of, not just as visual phenomena, but as multisensory experiences. He taught her about complementary colors, about contrast and harmony. She taught him about the emotional resonance of a hue, the tactile quality of a shade, the auditory echo of a gradient. He'd explain how to achieve a photorealistic texture. She'd explain how to make it feel real, like the rough bark of a tree under her fingers, or the smooth, cool surface of a marble statue. Their roles blurred. Adrian would guide Elena's hand, his own hand, Elena's, gently resting on her, Adrian's, arm, offering subtle adjustments. Elena, with Adrian's eyes, would see the emerging masterpiece, her heart translating Adrian's technical brilliance into soulful expression. He would describe the precise blending for a cloud formation. She would infuse it with the feeling of wind whistling past her ears, or the fluffy softness of a cotton ball. They spent countless hours in the studio, the air thick with the scent of oil paint and their whispered conversations. They argued, they laughed, they shared the deepest recesses of their creative souls. Elena's natural sensitivity, her innate ability to connect with pure emotion, began to chip away at Adrian's long-held cynicism. He found himself, through Elena's descriptions, starting to remember the joy of creation, the thrill of seeing the world as a source of endless inspiration. He had been a technician of light and shadow. She was teaching him to be a poet of sensation. One particularly intense night, they were working on a vibrant section of the painting depicting a twilight sky. Adrian, sitting beside Elena, was guiding her through the intricate layering of blues, purples, and oranges. "Now, Elena," he murmured, his voice soft, "blend that amethyst into the deeper indigo. Let it melt, like a dream fading into night. But remember the warmth of the sun that's just set. It lingers, even in the coolness." Elena, brush poised, focused on the canvas. "The color orange," she mused, her new eyes scrutinizing the tube she held. "You said it's about warmth. For me, it feels like laughter. The way Mira laughs, bright and full. And the purple, that's a deep memory, isn't it? A kind of distant longing." She began to paint, her strokes infused with these sensory interpretations. Adrian listened, his heart stirring in a way it hadn't in years. He heard the genuine wonder in her voice, the pure, unfiltered joy of experiencing color. He felt the passion radiating from her, his hand as she painted. And as she described the twilight sky, the orange is like laughter, Adrian, bright and full. And the purple, it's like a distant memory, a longing from afar, something profound shifted within him. He pictured the hues she described, not just as colors, but as the very emotions she imbued them with. He pictured her describing them, her face lit with an inner luminescence he could now hear, if not see. A realization, gentle but undeniable, settled in his heart, a warmth he hadn't felt since his loss. It wasn't just admiration for her talent or gratitude for her insight. It was something far deeper, far more resonant. He was falling in love. Not with the face he saw, his own, or the voice he heard, hers, but with the soul that shone through every word, every stroke, every sensory description. He was falling in love with Elena, the woman who had never seen the light, but who was, inexplicably, bringing light back into his own darkened world. He simply reached out, his hand finding hers on the brush, his heart full. "Yes," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion, his blind eyes seeing more clearly than they had in years. "Yes, Elena. Exactly like that." The shared canvas was becoming more than just a painting. It was a testament to their intertwined souls, a visual symphony of their shared journey back to light. As the forgotten light slowly but majestically came to life under their combined, extraordinary efforts, a new, unsettling current began to ripple through their existence. The vivid clarity of their swapped senses, once so exhilarating and transformative, started to waver with an insidious subtlety that both Elena and Adrian instinctively recognized as ominous. The vibrant tapestry of sight for Elena and the rich symphony of the unseen for Adrian began to fray at the edges. Their dreams, once clear reflections of their current, altered realities, Elena's filled with dazzling visual spectacles, Adrian's with resonant soundscapes, grew muddled, chaotic, and increasingly disturbing. Elena, in Adrian's body, would wake in a cold sweat from nightmares of absolute darkness, of familiar voices she couldn't quite place, of vibrant colors fading into indistinct, terrifying grays, like a painter's palette washing away. Adrian, in Elena's body, would experience jarring, terrifying flashes of blinding, incomprehensible light, fragmented images that dissolved before he could grasp them, a dizzying, disorienting jumble of sight and shadow that left him gasping for air. Disoriented and profoundly fearful. It was as if their individual realities were struggling to reassert themselves, creating a cacophony of sensory overload. These disturbing dreams were not mere ephemeral figments of imagination. They were undeniable harbingers, subtle yet insistent signals from the universe that their improbable time in each other's bodies might be drawing to a close. The realization, slow dawning yet utterly devastating, cast a long, chilling shadow over their shared joy, over the burgeoning love that had blossomed amidst the paint fumes and whispered instructions. The very thought of returning to their original forms, to their former limitations, ignited a profound, almost paralyzing fear in both of them, a terror of losing not just their swapped perceptions, but the very essence of the transformation they had undergone. Adrian, trapped within Elena's blind body, found himself tormented by the imminent prospect of regaining his sight. He had, in these extraordinary weeks, learned to see with an entirely new faculty, with his heart, his intuition, his profound connection to the non-visual world. He had come to perceive beauty not in the precise lines and vibrant colors he once meticulously rendered, but in the unseen rhythms of life, the gentle brush of a dandelion against his cheek, the intricate choreography of rain tapping on glass, the subtle shifts in the emotional timbre of a human voice. He had rediscovered a tenderness for the world, a deep appreciation for its nuanced textures and sounds that his former sight-dependent existence had completely overshadowed. He feared, with a visceral dread, that if he returned to his own body, if his eyes once again absorbed the overwhelming, often distracting visual information of the world, he would lose the profound, heartfelt lessons he had so painstakingly learned. He would forget the ability to truly listen to the world, to feel the quiet, unassuming beauty that Elena had taught him to appreciate. His cynical, detached self, the one who had seen everything but felt nothing, lurked like a predatory specter in the corners of his mind, threatening to reclaim him, to extinguish the fragile, newfound warmth in his soul. "What if I forget Elena?" he confided one evening, his voice, Elena's voice, trembling with an unfamiliar vulnerability that pierced her, Adrian's, heart. They were in the studio, the unfinished painting, now teeming with life and color, glowing in the dim, late-night light. The air was thick with the scent of oils and their unspoken anxieties. "What if I go back to only seeing with my eyes and not with this?" He gestured vaguely to his chest, to the locus of his newfound heart vision, a gesture both poignant and desperate. "I don't want to lose this feeling, this connection to everything. I don't want to go back to being blind to the essence of things, even with my sight restored." The crushing irony of his words, a renowned sighted man fearing the return of his own vision, hung heavy in the air, a testament to the profound shift within him. He desperately wanted to hold onto the wisdom gleaned from Elena's world, to integrate it into his own, but the mechanism of their return was unknown, unpredictable. Would it be an erasure? A simple reset? Or a seamless reintegration? The uncertainty was agonizing. Elena, now residing within Adrian's powerful, artistic body, understood his fear intimately, for she harbored an equally agonizing, albeit inverse, dread. For her, the thought of returning to her own blind body was a torment she struggled to articulate, a fear that gnawed at her waking hours and haunted her dreams. She had, for the first time, tasted light in all its glorious, overwhelming manifestations. She had seen the vibrant, fiery hues of a sunset streaking across the canvas of the sky, the intricate, delicate details of a single blooming flower, the subtle, nuanced expressions that flickered across a human face, conveying 1,000 unspoken emotions. She had glimpsed the world as others saw it, and it was a breathtaking, overwhelming, and utterly captivating revelation. The idea of losing that, of being plunged back into an eternal night after experiencing the glory of dawn, was an agony that pierced her soul to its very core. She had found not just physical sight, but a deeper understanding of human longing, of why others cherished this visual world so deeply, why they fought for it, why they celebrated it in art and poetry. And more profoundly, she had found Adrian, a connection that transcended mere physical form, a love that had bloomed in the most impossible of gardens. The thought of losing the vibrant visual world, and with it, perhaps, the tangible connection to the man who had shown it to her, was unbearable. One particularly stormy night, the wind howled outside the studio windows, a furious symphony that mirrored the tempest raging within Elena's soul. Rain lashed against the panes, each drop a percussive reminder of the fleeting nature of their borrowed time. The partially completed painting, The Forgotten Light, shimmered with new, vibrant colors, a testament to her newfound vision and Adrian's rediscovered passion, a beacon of their shared creation. Yet, Elena found herself crumbling, sobbing uncontrollably by the easel, the familiar sound of Adrian's deep, resonant sobs now emanating incongruously from her own throat. The breathtaking beauty of the canvas, the profound joy of creation, was utterly overshadowed by the encroaching dread of loss, a darkness more profound than any she had known. "I don't want to lose this world," she choked out, her voice, Adrian's voice, thick with tears, raw with despair. She gestured wildly around the studio, her hand sweeping across the vibrant colors, the carefully managed light, the tangible evidence of her miraculous vision. "I don't want to lose the sunset, Adrian. I don't want to lose the intricate faces of people, the way their eyes tell stories. I don't want to lose seeing." Her voice broke, a raw, primal cry of anguish that tore at Adrian's heart. "But I don't want to lose you." The last words were a whisper, almost lost in the storm's fury, yet they carried the weight of her entire being. Adrian, in her body, heard her pain, felt it resonate deep within his own, Elena's, chest, a sympathetic ache that tightened his breath. He rose from his stool, moving towards her, his movements still tentative and unpracticed in the dark, but guided by the undeniable sound of her anguish, by the magnetic pull of their intertwined souls. He found her, embraced her, his arms, Elena's smaller, more delicate arms, wrapping around her, Adrian's strong, artistic body, in a profoundly comforting hold. It was a bizarre, yet utterly poignant embrace, a blind artist comforting a seeing woman, each in the other's skin, each fearing the impending return to their own former selves, their former limitations. He held her tightly, feeling the tremors rack through Adrian's powerful frame, a silent understanding passing between them, a communion of shared fear and burgeoning love. He closed his eyes, Elena's eyes, focusing on the warmth of her, his skin, the steady, comforting beat of her, his heart against him. He remembered her touch, her voice, her spirit, which he had come to know so intimately, far beyond the confines of physical appearance. He remembered the invaluable lessons she had taught him about seeing beyond the visible, about the enduring power of inner light, about the richness of the world that existed beyond the optical lens. "When you close your eyes, Elena," he whispered, his voice, her voice, imbued with a quiet, unwavering certainty that seemed to cut through the storm's fury, "you will still be able to see me. You will see me in the vibrant colors you've painted, in the profound feelings they evoke. You will see me in every resonant sound, every evocative scent, every textured surface you touch. My heart will always be a part of your light, a permanent memory woven into your being." He paused, his grip on her tightening, an unspoken promise in his touch. "And for me, I will see you in every conscious brushstroke, every meaningful shadow, every nuanced composition. I will carry your light in my heart, the light of true perception, even if my eyes see only darkness again." And that, he concluded, his voice soft but resolute, the words a sacred vow, "that will be enough. We have changed each other forever, Elena. That change is not temporary." His words, simple yet profoundly transformative, were a balm to Elena's tortured soul. They wouldn't lose each other. Their connection, forged in the crucible of their swapped realities, was not dependent on physical sight or even on their current physical forms. It was a bond of shared perception, of intertwined spirits, of love born from extraordinary circumstances. As the storm outside raged, a fragile, hard-won peace settled within the studio, a quiet acceptance of the inevitable, whatever form it might take. They would face whatever came next, not as two separate individuals returning to their old lives, but as two souls inextricably linked, enriched by a journey that had redefined their very understanding of existence. Their love, born in the most improbable of circumstances, was not a fleeting visual pleasure, but a deep, enduring resonance, a light that shone not just in their eyes, but in the very core of their beings, a light that could never truly be forgotten. The last days leading up to the completion of The Forgotten Light were infused with a bittersweet intensity, a poignant blend of exhilaration and profound melancholy. Each brushstroke, each nuanced shade Elena applied, each whispered instruction Adrian offered, carried the weight of finality. The studio, once a place of hesitant discovery, now thrummed with a heightened, almost electric energy, as if the very air anticipated a cosmic shift. They worked in a focused, almost feverish communion, the painting growing in complexity and emotional depth, becoming a living testament to their shared journey. The Forgotten Light was no longer the desolate, monochromatic landscape Adrian had conceived in his despair. Under Elena's intuitive hand and Adrian's guiding spirit, it had transformed into a breathtaking masterpiece. The central, extinguished lamp remained, but around it, vibrant, luminous colors exploded, a sunrise bleeding into a twilight sky, painted with the laughter Elena now associated with orange and the longing she found in purple. A stream, once murky, now flowed with crystal clarity, reflecting a verdant landscape that hummed with the sounds Adrian had come to cherish. Tiny, almost imperceptible figures dotted the landscape, their faces etched with expressions Elena had learned to interpret, their movements mirroring the subtle rhythms Adrian had felt. It was a canvas that spoke not of forgotten light, but of light rediscovered, light found in unexpected places, light that burned brightest from within. It was a symphony of their combined senses, a visual poem of hope emerging from despair. As they applied the very last touches, a delicate shimmer of gold on the distant horizon, a final, almost translucent wash of blue to deepen a shadow, the room began to change. It wasn't a sudden, dramatic shift, but a subtle, ethereal transition. The light filtering through the skylights, which had been bright and constant, now seemed to pulsate, growing intensely brilliant, then fading into a soft, otherworldly glow. The air thickened, humming with an almost audible resonance, like a giant, unseen tuning fork vibrating around them. A faint, almost melodic chime echoed through the studio, a sound that seemed to originate from nowhere and everywhere all at once, growing steadily in volume and intensity. Elena, her hand still holding Adrian's brush, felt a strange tingling sensation spread through Adrian's body, starting from her fingertips and slowly creeping upwards. It was an unfamiliar warmth, an internal luminescence that radiated outwards. Adrian, in Elena's body, felt a similar, though inverse, sensation, a gentle fading of the physical boundaries of her form, as if her essence was becoming lighter, less tethered to the material world. The heightened clarity of his hearing and touch, which had become his guiding senses, began to blur, to soften at the edges, replaced by an internal hum that was both comforting and terrifying. Their eyes met, Elena's, Adrian's, filled with an indescribable blend of wonder, fear, and profound love, and Adrian's, Elena's, fixed on an unseen point, yet conveying an equally powerful surge of emotion. They knew, with an absolute certainty that transcended logic, that the moment of truth had arrived. The cosmic clock had run its course. Their borrowed time was up. A wave of intense emotion washed over Elena. All the sights she had absorbed, all the beauty she had witnessed, flashed through her mind like a kaleidoscopic dream, the vibrant chaos of a bustling city street, the serene majesty of a starlit night, the intimate warmth of Adrian's smile, as seen through Adrian's eyes. She thought of Myra's bright, loving face, finally seen. She thought of the intricate patterns of leaves against a blue sky, the way colors merged and separated. And beneath it all, the terrifying realization that this visual feast, this precious gift, might soon be taken away forever. The agony of anticipating its loss was almost unbearable. Her eyes, Adrian's eyes, welled up with silent tears, not of sadness alone, but of gratitude, of awe, and of a heart bursting with new understanding. Adrian, feeling the subtle dissolution of Elena's physical presence around him, was consumed by a similar torrent of memories and fears. He recalled the quiet grace of Elena's, his own, movements, guided by intuition rather than sight. He remembered the subtle texture of a rough stone, the scent of fresh rain on warm earth, the comforting weight of Myra's hand in his, Elena's. He heard again the nuanced symphony of a busy park, the individual voices and laughter that painted a vibrant auditory landscape. His fear was not of the physical darkness, for he had learned to navigate it, but of losing the inner light he had discovered, of forgetting the lessons of empathy and perception that Elena had so generously bestowed upon him. He feared the return of his own cynicism, the re-emergence of the jaded artist who had forgotten how to feel. He reached out, his hand, Elena's hand, searching blindly, instinctively, for her. Their hands met in the glowing, humming space, fingers interlocking tightly. It was an anchor, a desperate connection in the face of the unknown. Elena, as Adrian, squeezed his hand, Elena's, her touch radiating a silent promise, a fierce determination. Adrian, as Elena, gripped back, his touch conveying a similar unspoken vow, a profound faith in their shared bond. They stood there, two souls intertwined in a single embrace, one in the body of the other, bathed in the growing, shimmering light that pulsed around them. "I won't forget you, Elena," Adrian whispered, his voice, Elena's, filled with an unshakable conviction. "I won't forget the way you taught me to hear the world, to feel its rhythm. I'll carry it with me always." "And I won't forget the light, Adrian," Elena replied, her voice, Adrian's, thick with emotion yet firm. "I won't forget the colors, the faces. And I'll see you in every single one of them. You showed me the world, Adrian." As the light intensified, growing almost blindingly bright, the humming sound reached a crescendo, a resonating chord that filled every corner of the studio, vibrating through their very bones. Their bodies felt less substantial, as if they were dissolving, becoming one with the light itself. The air crackled with an almost tangible energy, a sensation of immense power and profound transformation. They clung to each other, their joined hands a defiant testament to their bond, a lifeline in the swirling vortex of energy. Their final thoughts, a unified stream of consciousness, were not of fear, but of gratitude. Gratitude for the impossible gift, for the lessons learned, for the love discovered. They closed their eyes, Elena's, Adrian's, and Adrian's, Elena's, not in resignation, but in a shared act of faith, trusting that whatever came next, they had changed each other irrevocably. They had exchanged not just bodies, but souls, perceptions, and a profound understanding of what it truly meant to see. The light engulfed them completely, a pure, white brilliance that transcended all earthly colors and shadows. The humming reached its peak, then lingered for a suspended moment, before slowly, gently, fading. And then, there was only silence. A deep, echoing silence, punctuated by the faint, rhythmic sound of rain still falling softly outside the studio window. The air, once electric, was now still, carrying only the faint scent of oil paint and something else, something new and fresh, like the promise of a world reborn. The transition was not violent, but a seamless, profound erasure, followed by a gentle, almost imperceptible reawakening. The blinding light, the resonating hum, the feeling of dissolution, all faded into a deep, dreamless void. For what felt like an eternity, there was nothing. No sensation, no thought, no awareness. Then, slowly, infinitesimally, the faintest flicker of consciousness began to return, like a tiny spark igniting in an infinite darkness. Elena's return to her own body was gradual, a delicate re-entry into the familiar. The first thing she registered was the soft, comforting texture of her own bedspread beneath her fingertips, a familiar cotton weave she had known her entire life. Then, the gentle scent of lavender, her favorite, wafting from the sachet on her bedside table. A faint, distant murmur of city traffic, a sound she had always associated with the quiet rhythm of her apartment, began to register. And, as always, the profound, enveloping darkness. She opened her eyes, or rather, the eyes of her own body, and encountered the comforting, yet now profoundly different, absence of light. There was no panic, no frantic grasping for sight. Instead, a wave of serene acceptance washed over her. She lay still, savoring the familiar sensations, yet noticing them with a heightened awareness she hadn't possessed before. The silence wasn't just an absence of sound, it was a rich, textured fabric of subtle echoes and whispers. The scent of lavender wasn't merely pleasant, it was a complex symphony of floral notes and earthy undertones. She stretched her legs, feeling the familiar contours of her own body, lighter, more petite than Adrian's. A profound sense of peace settled in her heart, mingled with an echo of a vibrant, visual memory. She reached up, her fingers tentatively touching her face. Yes, her own face. The delicate bone structure, the soft skin, the familiar curve of her jaw. And then, her eyelids, beneath which lay her own eyes, which had never seen. But this time, when she closed them, it wasn't just blackness. It was a canvas of memory. The vibrant oranges of Adrian's laughter sunset, the deep, contemplative purples of distant longing, the brilliant greens of rustling leaves, they weren't physically present, but they lived within her, imprinted on her mind's eye with a vividness that transcended mere visual recall. Adrian's voice, his strong, deep voice, echoed in her inner ear. "When you close your eyes, Elena, you will still be able to see me." And indeed, she could. She saw the world through the lens of Adrian's sight, but filtered through the profound emotional landscape he had helped her cultivate. She slowly sat up, her movements graceful and sure in the familiar darkness of her room. She heard the soft rustle of her nightgown, felt the cool air against her skin. This was her world, yet it was transformed. It was imbued with a new depth, a new dimension. She could still hear the distant city hum, but now it carried the memory of how Adrian had described the city lights, a glittering tapestry she had mentally constructed during their time together. She could still smell the coffee brewing next door, but now it evoked the image of steam curling upwards, a visual detail she had experienced through Adrian's eyes. The loss of physical sight was undeniable, but the inner vision, the light Adrian had given her, was an enduring gift. She smiled, a gentle, knowing smile. She was blind, yes, but she had never been more truly sighted. Meanwhile, Adrian's return to his own body was equally disorienting, yet fundamentally different. He awoke to a shocking, almost painful glare of light. His own eyes, snapped open, assaulted by the raw, unfiltered brilliance streaming through his studio skylights. He recoiled, raising a hand to shield his face, a primal instinct he hadn't used in weeks. His vision, once so precise, was overwhelmed, a chaotic jumble of shapes and colors that felt utterly alien after weeks of profound darkness. The first few moments were pure sensory overload, a dizzying cacophony of visual information that made him physically nauseous. Then, slowly, his eyes adjusted. The sharp lines of his studio, the familiar array of paint tubes, the expansive canvas of the forgotten light on the easel, all came into painfully clear focus. He saw his hands, his own large, artistic hands, trembling slightly as he lowered them. He ran them over his face, feeling the familiar contours of his own jawline, the stubble he hadn't felt in weeks, the strong bridge of his nose. He was Adrian again. The world, in its blinding, overwhelming visual glory, had returned. But it wasn't the same world. He looked at the painting, his own masterpiece, now infused with Elena's vibrant spirit. He saw the colors, yes, the blues and oranges and purples, but he also felt them. He heard Elena's voice in his mind, describing the orange as laughter, the purple as distant longing. He could see the texture of the brushstrokes, but he also remembered the feeling of the rough bark of a tree, the soft touch of petals, the scent of fresh rain that Elena had used to define certain shades. His sight was back, but it was now irrevocably layered with Elena's profound, multisensory understanding. He swung his legs over the side of the bed, feeling the firm, muscular strength of his own body. He stood, testing his balance, his movements powerful and confident, yet now imbued with a newfound grace, a quiet awareness he hadn't possessed before. He walked across the studio, his bare feet touching the cool, polished concrete floor. He could see the dust motes dancing in the sunlight, but he also felt the subtle vibrations of the floor, the faint hum of the city outside that Elena had taught him to listen to. He picked up a paintbrush, his fingers instinctively testing its weight, its balance. He saw the bristles, but he also remembered the feeling of paint spreading across canvas, the tactile joy of creation. Adrian looked around his studio, at the familiar objects now seen through a new lens. He saw them not just as inanimate things, but as objects imbued with sensation, with sound, with memory. The world, which he had once viewed with such detachment, now vibrated with 1,000 unseen connections. He saw the light, yes, but he also heard its silence, felt its warmth, smelled its subtle presence. His cynicism had been stripped away, replaced by a profound sense of awe and gratitude. He was seeing with his eyes again, but for the first time in years, he was truly seeing with his heart. He walked over to the forgotten light, his gaze lingering on the vibrant hues, the subtle, soulful additions Elena had brought to it. It was a masterpiece, far more than anything he could have created alone. He reached out, his fingers tracing the contours of the painted lamp, now surrounded by a radiant, hopeful glow. He saw it, but he also felt it, the memory of darkness, yes, but more powerfully, the overwhelming sensation of light reborn, light that emerged from within. A profound sense of wonder and love filled him. He looked at the painting, then closed his eyes. The visual world vanished, but Elena's voice, her spirit, her teachings remained. He could still see her, not with his physical eyes, but with an inner vision that was now permanently etched onto his soul. He had received his sight back, but he had gained something infinitely more precious, the ability to truly perceive, to truly feel, to truly connect. The world was still visually overwhelming, but now it sang with an inner harmony he had never known. He opened his eyes again, a knowing smile gracing his lips. The journey had ended, the bodies had returned to their rightful owners. But the souls, the perceptions, the hearts, they were forever changed, forever intertwined. The forgotten light had been found, not in the eyes, but in the heart. The return was complete, yet nothing was truly back to normal. The universe, in its enigmatic wisdom, had orchestrated a profound exchange, a metamorphosis that left both Elena and Adrian irrevocably altered, their lives forever intertwined by the cosmic thread of the forgotten light. The day after their ethereal return, both woke to a world that was both familiar and astonishingly new, seen through eyes that had been opened to entirely different dimensions of perception. Elena, back in her own familiar body, stirred in the quiet sanctity of her apartment. The morning light, filtered through her curtains, remained an unseen presence, a gentle warmth on her skin. She opened her eyes, and the world remained, as always, an expanse of velvety darkness. Yet, this darkness was no longer a void. It was a rich, vibrant tapestry woven with the memories of Adrian's sight. She reached out, touching the smooth, cool wood of her bedside table. She felt its texture, heard the subtle echo it produced, but now a vivid image of its polished surface, its warm mahogany hue, its delicate grain, materialized in her mind's eye. She saw it, not with her physical eyes, but with an inner vision that was startlingly clear. She rose, moving with her characteristic grace, yet every step was imbued with a heightened awareness. The scent of her morning coffee, once merely invigorating, now painted a picture of swirling steam, the rich, dark liquid, the delicate ceramic of the mug. She saw the steam rise, the light catching its ephemeral dance, a detail she had experienced through Adrian's eyes. Myra's cheerful morning call, her voice warm and solicitous, now conjured a vivid image of her friend's kind, laughing face, the crinkle around her eyes, the gentle curve of her smile, the way her hair framed her face. Elena responded with a genuine joy, a deeper understanding of the visual cues that accompanied Myra's affection. The world was still silent to her physical eyes, but it resonated with a vibrant, inner light, a symphony of remembered colors and forms that Adrian had gifted her. She was still blind, yet she now possessed a depth of sight that transcended the purely optical, a profound inner vision that would guide her for the rest of her life. The loss of physical sight was merely a veil. The world, in all its visual glory, lived within her, a permanent resident of her soul. Across town, in his sun-drenched studio, Adrian experienced a similar, yet inverse, transformation. He looked at his own hands, calloused and paint-stained, his artist's tools. He saw them, yes, with his incredibly sharp, returning vision. But now, when he picked up a brush, he didn't just see the bristles, he felt their springiness, heard the faint whisper of paint on canvas, remembered the tactile joy of creation that Elena had rediscovered for him. His eyes scanned the studio, taking in every detail, the vibrant colors of his paints, the sculptural forms of his unfinished works, the expansive, magnificent, the forgotten light glowing on the easel. He saw them, but he also felt them, heard them, sensed them with a profound, multi-sensory depth that had been utterly absent before his swap. The cynicism, the jaded detachment that had plagued him for so long, had vanished, replaced by a radiant, almost childlike wonder. He looked at the world with his physical eyes, but he perceived it with Elena's heart. He saw the intricate play of light and shadow, but he also heard the silence within the light, felt the subtle currents of emotion in a landscape, sensed the unseen narratives unfolding around him. The tragedy that had once darkened his soul still existed as a memory, a poignant echo, but it no longer consumed him. Elena had shown him that even in the profoundest darkness, there existed an inner light, a beauty that simply waited to be perceived through a different lens. His sight was restored, sharper than ever, but it was now illuminated by a wisdom, an empathy, and a profound emotional connection that had been missing from his art and his life. He was seeing the world with both his eyes and his heart, a true artist reborn. Adrian knew he couldn't keep this transformation to himself. He had to share it, to celebrate the light that Elena had brought back into his life and into his art. He poured his renewed passion, his integrated perceptions, into a new body of work. His canvases exploded with life, with a vibrancy and emotional depth that surpassed anything he had created before. His brushstrokes, once precise and technically brilliant, now carried an undeniable soul, a pulsating energy that drew viewers in and allowed them to not just see, but to feel his art. He organized a new exhibition, an event that instantly captivated the art world. He titled it, with a resonant simplicity, Light Within, a symphony of the senses. The gallery was transformed, not just into a visual feast, but into an immersive experience that hinted at the profound sensory journey Adrian had undergone. Tactile elements were subtly integrated. Ambient sounds, carefully curated, flowed through the space. Even delicate, evocative scents occasionally wafted through the air, creating a multi-sensory dialogue with the visual art. The centerpiece of the exhibition was, of course, the Forgotten Light. It hung in a place of honor, radiant and breathtaking, drawing gasps of awe from critics and art lovers alike. It was a visual marvel, a technical triumph, but more importantly, it vibrated with an emotional resonance that deeply moved all who beheld it. The story of its creation, of the two souls who had poured their merged perceptions into it, became an whispered legend among the gallery-goers. But the true emotional core of the exhibition, the piece that brought tears to many eyes, was a new painting displayed prominently beside the Forgotten Light. It was a portrait, rendered with a tenderness and clarity that was unlike any of Adrian's previous works. It was a profound, soulful depiction of Elena. The portrait captured her delicate features, her serene expression, her hair falling softly around her face. Her eyes, painted with an astonishing depth, conveyed not blindness, but an incredible inner luminescence, a quiet wisdom that hinted at vast, unseen worlds. It was Elena, the girl who had never seen the physical light, yet who had, in her unique way, brought true light back to him. Adrian, standing quietly in the bustling gallery, watched as people gathered before Elena's portrait. He listened to their murmurs of admiration, their poignant reflections. He saw their eyes, moist with emotion, truly seeing the spirit he had painstakingly rendered. He knew, with an absolute certainty, that this was his greatest masterpiece. It wasn't just a painting, it was a testament to transformation, a celebration of the unseen, a declaration of love. Elena, guided by Mira, who was now privy to the extraordinary truth, sworn to secrecy, and utterly awestruck, made her way through the exhibition. She stopped before the portrait, her fingers gently reaching out, not to touch the canvas, but to feel the warmth of the air around it, to hear the hushed reverence of the crowd. She couldn't see the image of herself, yet she felt it with every fiber of her being. She felt the love, the understanding, the profound connection that emanated from the canvas. She saw herself through Adrian's eyes, and she recognized the truth of the light within. Later, as the gallery began to clear, Adrian approached her. He took her hand, his touch familiar, comforting, yet now imbued with a new tenderness. "Elena," he whispered, his voice soft, "you like it?" She squeezed his hand. "I love it, Adrian," she replied, her voice filled with a quiet certainty. "I can feel it. I can see it. You captured more than just a face. You captured everything. You painted the light within." They stood together, two souls profoundly changed, one who still couldn't see with her eyes, but saw with a heart full of vivid memories, and one who now saw the world with both his sight and a heart overflowing with empathy and rediscovered wonder. The forgotten light had not just been found, it had been reborn, transformed, and illuminated by the extraordinary journey of two people who had, against all odds, taught each other how to truly see, not just with their eyes, but with the boundless, interconnected senses of their souls. Their story, etched on canvases and in their hearts, became an enduring testament to the fact that the most profound light often shines brightest from within, guiding us through the deepest darkness and connecting us in ways we could never have imagined.